Hello, everyone. My name is Chandrika Narayanan-Mohan. I am a writer and cultural consultant from India, living in Ireland for about 10 years. And I'm so happy to be here with you today. Today, I'm going to tell a story about falling in love with things, life having its own plans, and then coming back to yourself and your passions in unexpected ways. It's also going to be a story about how your passport dictates the dreams you're allowed to have. And it's also going to be a story about science communication and poetry, so a lot of things mushed together. I'm going to start with talking about art and science. Oh, do I have a presentation? There she is, okay. So art and science, to me, were never meant to live in silos. They've always been entangled, overlapping, interwoven things. I feel that they are threads in the same tapestry. Everything around you, on you, is the most tangible connection between arts and science. It's obvious, it's always existed. But I've been kind of lucky that I was brought up to think that way. So thanks, Mom. My mother indulged my curiosity in a variety of different ways, from the Leonardo da Vinci CD-ROM, I don't know if any of you had that as well, the Brief History of Time CD-ROM, various games, but also the art sticker book from the National Gallery, I guess painting equipment, loads and loads and loads of books. So I was really lucky that I wasn't brought up to think that art and science were particularly different things, and that the kind of people who liked art or liked science weren't really different people either. School, entirely different issue altogether. So I was good at art, I was good at literature, I was good at actually most subjects, not so much at physics, which was a real shame because I actually had a massive interest in astrophysics, but I was let down by my own grasp of the maths, physics, and terrible physics teachers, unfortunately. And I didn't know at the time that you can come back to science in different ways, through the arts, through other disciplines. And like many people, I assumed if you're not good at something in school, you're kind of done for and you probably won't look at it ever again, which isn't really true. So the things I was good at, art and literature, I went on to do a BA in art history and English literature in the UK. But it was really when I did an art history MA in London that things changed for me, because that's where I discovered the Wellcome Collection. So the Wellcome Collection is kind of an exhibition space, a research space where science translates art, art translates science, and all comes together to talk about what it is to be human and humanity. And I just fell in love with this place. Something clicked to just know that, one, this was a space that existed, but also this is a space you can work in. You can be employed by somewhere like this. And it was really exciting for me. Unfortunately, well, I got a few rounds into their graduate training program, but I didn't realize that because I was a non-EU citizen, I was actually never eligible to have a job with them at all in the first place. And well, I didn't really expect immigration to be a thing that affects your life, because I was very privileged to be brought up by a diplomatic family. I'd moved around the world, hadn't really thought about being an immigrant, and now I realize that's actually what I was. And turns out Theresa May has her own plans as well. So living in the UK and under Theresa May's kind of quite rapidly tightening immigration restrictions with a non-EU citizenship, my Indian passport, there weren't many options for me. So I was going to actually do a second MA in arts management, but wanting to explore this field of arts and science maybe through it. And instead, they changed the student visa rules very suddenly in summer. And as I was about to start a second MA, I was told, unfortunately, we can't accept you anymore. So I had 2 months to find a new country to move to and start my life from scratch, and that's what I did. Luckily, I ended up in Dublin, where there was a course in arts management and cultural policy at UCD, and that's what I did. So the good thing is that through that arts management course, I did get to explore the area of STEAM, because I did my thesis on art, science, and curiosity, a case study of Dublin City of Science, now known as the Festival of Curiosity. And one of the interesting things is when I did that research, I was interviewing artists and scientists about how they felt about this collaboration. And it was interesting to find that the scientists actually got more out of it than the artists, because they really loved seeing their research communicated back to them through an artistic lens. They found it invigorating, they found it interesting to see their work from a different perspective, and it really helped them in their research and how they viewed it. Then comes a detour for 7 years. I'd mentioned immigration, it doesn't go away. So I was very lucky, in fairness, to get a job in arts management that was eligible for a work permit, but about 2 or 3 times more than that, kept getting in the way. I was forced to leave jobs I was perfectly eligible to be in. I ended up in the drinks industry for 3 years, and I got my visas rejected multiple times, even though everything was perfectly normal and according to plan, but it's really, really hard to get a work permit and just to live legally here. It also meant I could not get any income outside of my one full-time job. I couldn't quit my job, and I couldn't have more than one job. So I was very focused on the jobs I had, and I was very grateful to have them, but it didn't really mean that I could look outside them much. And that kind of changed in 2019, because that's when I got a stamp for permission. So this is immigration lingo for I finally was able to live and work freely in Ireland. I could be self-employed. I can earn income on top of my job. I could quit my job legally, which was nice. And even though I loved it, having that freedom was huge. And so I went from survival mode to dream mode, because when you're in survival mode, it is very, very hard to dream big for yourself. You're too busy thinking about the next day or the next year and what your plans for surviving and staying in a country are. It's really hard to just dream and think of, interests and curiosities and be ambitious sometimes. And then that changed a few months later, because literally, within about 5 months, lockdown hit. And this had a few different impacts on me, because one, I had this new freedom and this new release of anxiety for the first time in 7, 8 years, but I was very physically trapped in a studio flat living on my own. But actually that was kind of great, because I had time to think and spend time with myself. And also, because I was now legally allowed to earn money outside of my job, I could start a writing career for the first time. So I've always been a writer, sort of as a hobby, as an interest, but I'd never really considered it as an actual career. And this is a time where I actually focused on doing that and building a writing career on top of my full-time job. So one of the things that happened during this time was the SpaceX launch. And so my mother, who got me into astronomy and loves this kind of thing, she lives in Switzerland at the moment. So we were on the phone looking for the rocket, and I actually wrote this poem called Stargazing with My Mother. And this is the poetry part of the performance. I'm just going to do a few wee readings from this. So I wrote this poem. "We've seen stars fall before," she says, over the phone, as we peer out over rooftops from different sides of Europe, looking for a blip or a spark against the blue, trying not to mistake a rocket for a star. "You need binoculars," she says. And I remember how she demonstrated before handing me a pair as a Hale-Bopp comet blazed across a New Delhi sky. "Look, over there," she exclaimed one time, pointing to a needle streak of white, as we stood outside a Swiss hotel, not caring what people would think of 2 Indian women gazing upwards into the night. And so that poem kind of reinvigorated my interest in writing about science and art through poetry, all while trapped in this little room. And actually that led to even more poems, because soon after that was the landing of the Perseverance rover on Mars. So I wrote more poems. And so these came from watching the press conference about the rover. And there were 2 engineers there talking about their discoveries and their process behind building it. So one engineer was talking about a moment where his daughter was doing gymnastics for him, like just demonstrating her gymnastics, and she was using a sports camera. And that's the moment where he realized that's the kind of camera he needs for the rover. And I found this so fascinating. They have this specific platform in this moment to talk about the innovations behind this amazing thing. And he's talking about a very everyday moment in his life, and that's actually the moment that changed it. And then there was another engineer who mentioned that the sister of a blind girl wanted to know what Mars sounded like. And so that's when he started doing a little bit more work into the microphone that was going to be used on the rover. And this blew my mind, that these moments were not in a lab or somewhere that you expect that involves tools and coats and computers. These were moments where it was human interaction, and everyday moments actually led to these moments of innovation. And I got really interested in this space. So I want to keep going. And at this point, I decided, look, I think I am going to start looking back at STEAM, looking back at science communication in the arts. I think this is the moment to realize that I do love this space and I want to come back to it. So I put it out to the universe, and the universe, otherwise known as Twitter, responded in 30 seconds, saying that the Science Gallery Dublin Rapid Residency was open for applications. And it was specifically for artists of color to be paired with any researcher they wanted to create an arts project. And that's what I did. So I applied with a project aiming to create a poetic installation based on the everyday moments of astrophysics research, of discovery. And I would get stories from researchers and basically turn them into poems. And I named this project Solar Flares because it ended up being paired with space weather researchers. So I had this amazing group of people behind me to support me, people from the Science Gallery Dublin, people from Venice, from Italy, and then Grace Anumaku from Design Op. And I kind of went from 0 to 100, from like thinking, this is it, I've given up on the STEAM dream, I'm just gonna work in arts management and just survive and move forward, to having a whole team cheerleading me and helping me and give me all the tools I wanted to make something happen. So I got paired with Dr. Sophie Murray from Dias Dunsink Observatory, and this is us having our Zoom call with my self-lockdown haircut there, and I got her to tell me her stories of success, failures, pivotal moments, and then she would tell them to me, and I would pick the little moments I think make for a good story, and I turn them into poems. Then I got an Arts Council grant to actually make it into an installation. I'm a poet, I tend to work, I just write, and then I might perform it. I've never worked with other artists before. So I got permission, really, and I got funding to do that. So I got award-winning composer Dennis Clossy and motion graphic designer Farouk Alau to create this piece. So this is now ticking along the background. I went to Dunsink Observatory as well and had an amazing time. There's us recording sounds from a clock in Dunsink Observatory, and I fell in love with the place. I didn't realize that there was so much there about literature and history and maths and space and time, like Dunsink time's a whole thing. And I just wanted to do more projects with Dunsink Observatory. And so I did. I got funding from Poetry Ireland to do another small project for Poetry Day Ireland. Essentially, bringing poetry and space weather research together again through poetry. I got people to build these solar projectors, the kind of things that you would normally use to look at eclipses. And I wanted them to project the sun onto poems that they'd either written or found that talked about the future. And that was really great. So here I am today, and it's been quite a journey, and I'm really excited to be here, particularly because I've been a big fan of Inspire, Fast, and Future Humans since the beginning, and I wanted to work in the arts and science fields for a long time, maybe as a researcher, maybe as an arts manager. I never in a million years thought I would be coming to this as an actual artist, as a writer, and also to be able to present this here on a Future Human stage. It's amazing, and it shows how much things can change when the barriers that prevent you from being your creative self, from dreaming big, are finally removed. And I'm so excited to see our Ukrainian friends here today. It is exciting and encouraging to see our community and our country welcome them so warmly. And it would be amazing to see the same treatment for those in direct provision, and to see people that are treated as potential innovators, not potential criminals. Can you imagine how many more ambitious dreams could be realized right here in this country, and maybe even on this stage? And so, without further ado, I've decided to premiere the project here for the very first time. This is the actual piece. It is poems created from stories that Dr. Sophie Murray told me. I wrote a few short poems about that. One was from Brendan Owens. He told me such a devastating story that I turned into a poem. The soundscape is mostly from Dunsink Observatory. There sounds like the dome opening. We went to the server room and stuck microphones everywhere, and then lots of clocks. We had a great time. And then the visuals are from Farouk Alau, who is from Design Op, which is a design collective of color in Ireland and a great place to find designers in general. So I'm really excited to share this with you for the first time. Thank you so much. If you want to read the poems and find out more, my website is very literal. It's just chandrika.ie. And thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy this. Practical magic. In the machine, the cycle of things, the writing, the publishing, the thin white paper cut of it, the printing, the pulping, the new Word document of it. And then, a fissure. A moment where the machine has faltered and you are turned mechanic. There is an unexpected comfort of the tools in your hand and the clarity of a headlight. And now comes the setting down of a mantle, the taking up of a tool belt. You understand the cogs, the nuts, the bolts, the conveyor belt of ideas, the doing of things, the burning bright goodness of it, and the papers are left bleaching in a sunlit room, while you sit, connected, electric, elated and alive, and the machine is you and it is yours. Ensemble. In the thin moments between a thought and a breath, when a spark pushes through and we breathe into it tentatively, coaxing it to life until a room full of exhalations sets the blaze flickering across 100 open hands and smiling eyes, praise is coating our skin like honey. We are friendly gods and we revel in it. The fire settles, the seeds pop open, and now there is the slow bake of embers glowing, pulsing, burning our hands. Can you feel the warmth of it? Citizen science. 1 or 2 Guinnesses down, the promise of we won't talk about work, long broken. We huddle around the smallness of something, the closed doors of it, the integrity of its structure. But the liquid has us loosened and the walls fall away. The realization that the idea is liquid, not solid. It is an ocean, not a pebble. And what we needed all along was not a fortress, but a fleet. Further research is required. It's a Christmas fresh morning. The anticipation, the readiness, the excitement of finding yourself to be at the center of things, at the pinpoint of the universe. For one split moment, the euphoria, the absolute lack that awaits you. The absence of evidence, correlation, confirmation, inconclusive. It is Christmas morning, and there is nothing under the tree. Reinventing the wheel. An incredulous look, shared in good humor, amongst the bafflement, the why on earth would you do it that way? And the settling of the moment, the way it all falls apart, the way things as you know them are burnt away until you are weightless, singed to a crisp, and then new, glowing as you step into a new realization, baptized in the cool waters of the yes, the I see now, the raw shine under the scabs, where etched under the pink skin it is written, this is how we make it work.